Welcome to Leadership Talk, the official Waymaker podcast, where we explore how your organization can achieve more by doing less. Welcome to Leadership Talk, the official Waymaker podcast. I'm your host, Craig Heineman, and with me, as usual, is Stuart Leo, founder of Waymaker. How are you, mate?
Fabulous, actually. It's great. It's good to be, what are we, episode 4?
4, yep. We're recording this just after Easter.
Yeah.
After the Easter break. So I trust that you've had a good one.
Mate, I had a fantastic Easter break. There was clearly downtime and relaxation and family and services and all the things you want to do at Easter to relax. So it was wonderful.
Well, I'm impressed that you got to relax because things are pretty crazy at the moment from a Waymaker's perspective, right?
Well, yeah,
there's lots of exciting news that's happening in the world of Waymaker.
Lots and lots of exciting news. And I mean, it's probably good to stop and pause and, you know, people are signing up, people are taking their first diagnostics and revealing growth opportunities and building their first strategic plans. So we're getting lots and lots and lots of feedback in at the moment. I literally just finished a exec team meeting here with the Waymaker crew, and our heads are exploding with feedback, which is super exciting. There's some things we're doing really well. There's some things we're going to make that better. There's some things we're going, ooh, that would be really cool to have. So, you know, we're like everybody else out there, adapting and growing with market feedback, customer feedback. And so if you're listening, which I know many users are because you've told me that, I just want to say thanks. Thanks for giving us your feedback. Thanks for reaching out to me on LinkedIn or on Facebook or email if you've known me. You know, continue to give us feedback, and we're listening, and we can't wait to make it better because
that's awesome. Yeah,
because business improvement is what we do.
Hey, we actually have to do an episode on how to take on board constructive feedback. Well, I think that would actually be it's interesting conversation.
That would be a good conversation. We should maybe get one of our partners or friends out there in industry to join us on that one. But certainly, personally, when you're taking on feedback, I think I've grown in that space. I tend to throw less things and try and and self-justify. No. It's really there's that great phrase: "Data is your friend," and any feedback is good. So we're living in the data right now, which is where we're meant to be. Good.
Well, things haven't slowed down, Stu, and the purpose of this podcast is to announce one of our new initiatives through Waymaker, and that is the Waymaker Academy.
Exciting news, Waymaker Academy. This is actually one of the big core pillars of Waymaker, and that is how do you learn, grow, access content to help your team or help yourself, and Waymaker Academy is that place. We're calling it bite-sized brilliance, and that is exactly what it is. Short courses to help leaders and coaches build their skills on topics that relates to everything you do in Waymaker. So super excited. Waymaker Academy is open, is live, and hey, welcome. Sign up right now.
How do I access it?
Oh,
how do I sign up?
I'm so glad you asked. It's if you're a user, whether you're in your free trial or whether you're paid up and using Waymaker, it's free. So all you got to do in Waymaker, top right hand, you see your little profile. If you're on the desktop, top left hand, I think if it's on your mobile device, you'll see your profile. So wherever you've got your picture, click on that, and the little drop down will appear, and you just click Waymaker Academy, and that signs you straight into Waymaker Academy, and you'll see the first few courses available for free. And they're things like onboarding for your team, things like how to answer question 1 vision, or how to build customer experience, how to set up a problem, all the things you need to go deep into Waymaker. And so when you're going, oh, how could I do that? Jump into Waymaker Academy. You'll start to see how it works and use it. What's super exciting though is, we built Waymaker for two groups of people. Of course, the organisational leader and their teams, but also the business coach, the person out there that's actually helping implement or helping facilitate, guide, and then implement teams into better strategic planning. And so part of Waymaker Academy going live is the Waymaker Advisor certification going live, and we're really excited about that.
All right. Do you want to explain that one briefly, just the Waymaker certification process?
Yeah. So you can coach and consult on Waymaker, the platform. So, and for all those coaches and consultants that we've been talking to over the last couple of weeks, thank you for your interest and your inquiries. You can now jump in and get the course. We've built a course that you can take online. It's we would say take 1 to 3 days to work through it, but within a couple of weeks you can learn the concepts. You can go deep on Waymaker's experience curve. You can get in and see examples. You can get templated best practice guides on onboarding your clients into Waymaker. It's got everything. And if you jump onto waymaker.io, go to the partner section there. So not in the app, just on our website, and click on Waymaker Advisor Certification. And that is the overview of the course. And that's a paid course, naturally. That is about building a practice on Waymaker and going out and being a Waymaker. We certify you, you become a partner of Waymaker, you get access to certain content that regular business users don't have access to. And we know that you know Waymaker, and we know that you can then on-sell that and add advisory services to that. So it's one of the best ways to really get to know the platform and take it to your clients.
Great. So we're getting certified in the tools that we need and the framework that we're going to use to on-sell that as a coach or a consultant trainer for businesses. Yes. Yeah. That's it. So the simplicity here is when we talk to coaches and consultants, they're looking for, well, tell us if you're not, but what we understand so far is that what they're really looking for is a platform that brings data to the table to show where the gaps are. That's what our diagnostic does. How to build the strategic plan and the performance plan digitally, which is what the roadmap does, and then how to have really clear ROI and reporting and tracking on what gets done. Okay, well that's what the OKR module's doing. So as a coach or a consultant, you've got visibility of data into where the gaps are in the organisation, what the leaders have said, let's go ahead and work on, and how you can then help implement and do that. So as a coach or a consultant, we'll get some on this podcast over the coming weeks. You do a couple of things. One, you help organisations understand the gaps, so understand the outputs of the diagnostic. And that's going to be across many areas. In fact, we should do a deep dive into this in coming weeks, but it'll be across the plain activities. So at the top level, simple activities. What could we do better? Okay, that's one area. Underneath that, though, because we've got layers of activities across the diagnostic, you're going to see patterns and trends emerging. And it's going to, in fact, most users get this as they start moving from vision to market to strategy. They're quickly going, I see a theme here. And that pattern or trend is really visible in the data. So you can start to go a little bit deeper and go, look, there seems to be some consistent behaviour going on. Okay, now we're talking about behavioural shift and cultural change.
And then one of the other really cool things we do is we identify the gaps between skills and systems in the diagnostic, which we've talked about before. So that quickly allows a coach to help facilitate out priorities and close those gaps. But actually sitting deeper in the diagnostic is what we call the growth mindset, which is where we get into the mind. And it's not the mind of the individual, it's the collective mind of the organisation. And so there's up to 16 variations of that growth mindset that drop out. And as every coach knows, the greatest level of change comes not from changing what you do, but how you think. And as a coach, understanding and reading the diagnostic data around growth mindsets helps you create transformational shift in the mindset of leaders and users in the organisation. And that's powerful. So we really set up a coach to go deep and create change.
Great. So Waymaker Academy is not just training and certification for coaches and consultants, but it's also just a library of a wealth of free education.
That's right.
For businesses that sign up to Waymaker.
Yeah, and
so,
ever expanding library.
Great. Education is knowledge. Knowledge is power,
education
et cetera.
Knowledge is power,
right?
yeah. I think you're trying to do a really good job of bringing me back on topic.
Trying to segue you back to the...
That's right. Yeah, we had this, it wouldn't be a Waymaker podcast if we didn't look at history or if we didn't look at something in the marketplace and go, hey, how do we learn from this?
All right, I'm ready.
Yeah,
I'm ready.
So
I'm ready to hear.
I mean, one of the big idea here is Waymaker Academy is not just bite-sized brilliance, but it's ridiculously fast. As you bring your team on, whether they be in the same room, same city, same country, continent, or culture as you're in, you can distribute that content anywhere. And as we were thinking through this podcast, we thought, what's the takeout? I mean, we want to give Waymaker Academy a plug and we want to let people know about what we're doing, but what do I take away from this? What's my learning as a business leader or a coach? And if we go back and look at the greatest moment of change around content distribution, stay with me, the greatest moment of change around content distribution, we find ourselves in the mid to late 1400s when Johannes Gutenberg invented the printing press. And you're like, okay, how does that help me? Well, there's a really cool business lesson in the Gutenberg printing press, which I think we should bring out.
All right.
I was waiting for a resounding yes. Hey, let's go.
No, yes. Oh, yeah. I'd love to hear that. I could think of several, but I'm interested to hear the one that you want to bring to the surface.
What do you think? What do you think? Part of the several, what do you think?
Well, one of them would be that until the printing press, the distribution of information was limited to the ability for someone to, handwrite or copy content. Yeah. The minute the printing press came out, the dissemination of information was much faster. Nowhere near as quickly as the internet, but obviously a lot faster than they had up until that point.
Yeah, you're right. Typically monks in monk houses, seminaries. That's
monk house.
All credibility's just gone straight out the window.
Yeah, sorry, no disrespect to monks.
Typically a group of people, monks, were scribing and transcribing source documents, the most important source documents of the day, government stuff, or really mostly church things. And at that time, it would have been the Christian Bible. And we actually have in history a few moments in time that in the West, Gutenberg landed on the printing press, and he really landed the printing press moment. But we see also in the 1100s, 1200s, Chinese inventors playing with lettering and wording, and I think it was just Gutenberg that probably got there sooner. But the world was moving towards how can we take things that were written and transcribed and get them into another way. The world was searching to improve communication. And so that was Gutenberg.
He'd be loaded now, wouldn't he, Gutenberg?
Well,
if he was still alive?
If he was still alive, well, his patent, his patent has probably expired, and maybe his copyright invention has expired. But did you know Gutenberg died an indebted, penniless inventor?
I did not know that.
I did not know that before doing some research around this story. Okay. And I thought, man, like he was the Jeff Bezos of his day, wasn't he? He was the Rupert Murdoch of the 1400s. How could he die in such a penniless state? And the business lesson in all of this. So here's the big idea around content: is that content is only as powerful as its distribution method enables it to be. Mm-hmm. So content and distribution go hand in hand. Distribution unlocks the power of content. And so what did Gutenberg do? The first thing he actually printed was the Christian Bible. That's the famous story. The first thing Gutenberg printed was a Bible, typically something that took years, 2 or 3 years to rewrite by a group of expert monks, and therefore written content and scriptures of the day was super, super important. And so he printed that, and it took him a little bit of time, but he was actually able to do his first print run of the Bible in Latin, and it took him 3 years, but he printed 200 copies. Now, that is exponentially faster than a group of monks trying to do hand-copied manuscripts. The problem was, though, he didn't have distribution. And so he actually, whilst he invented the technology, he wasn't able to do anything with the product that it was creating. I feel that perhaps we shouldn't call the Christian Bible a product, but it was a thing that was getting distributed. And it wasn't until at the time the great distribution people of the Mediterranean and Europe were the merchants of Venice. I mean, we all know Shakespeare's play, Merchant of Venice. And so it wasn't until other German inventors took Gutenberg's technology and started to produce content that actually could go into the ships that were leaving Venice, and the very first news organisations started to emerge, and the very first distribution networks started to emerge, and suddenly they could print something, they could sell it to a merchant captain who would buy it and then take it out and sell it to people across the distribution networks. And so this idea of product and distribution really came into play. And so as the story goes on, the first thing Gutenberg printed was the Christian Bible, and it was 50, 60, 70 years later that the huge Reformation happened across Western Europe, or across Europe at the time, when Martin Luther nailed his 95 thesis.
95 theses, yep.
Theses to a door of a German church, and arguing that because the regular man had been able to read and understand that actually that was different from what was being done through the institutional church, and that changed the face of Europe. The Protestant Reformation emerged, and something really.
You're blaming Gutenberg for this?
No, no, not at all. I think Luther.
Blaming, that's not the right word.
Blaming is not the right word. In fact, maybe that was a really good thing. But the point here was that what used to take years and years and years, suddenly now was speeding up, Luther took that content, he did that famous nailing of the theses, and within hours, I think something like 17 hours, I don't know how it was hours, but within hours, printers, because this is the early 1500s now, so 60-something years later, printers were replicating that in London and across Europe. And so societal change was unlocked because there was both the content created but also the distribution networks to get it out there. And I think, when I think about companies we've worked with and clients of Waymaker and then I think about Waymaker Academy, we live in this amazing time where you and I can record a podcast, drop a video and audio, and literally within minutes to an hour or two, that's out there available to anybody in the world. And whilst that's amazing, value comes from content plus distribution. And that's
so we've got the new distribution method from Mr. Tim Berners-Lee, who invented the interwebs.
Yes.
And now, however many years later, content is being created that we want to disseminate very quickly across borders, but
I think the point I'm trying to make here, maybe badly, is that we keep repeating the same mistakes.
Right.
Because distribution methods change. And so if you're an organizational leader thinking about this, I want you to be thinking about, well, what is my product? Is it information? Is it a widget? Is it whatever? How am I distributing it? And what's the relationship through that distribution? Because let's think about ebooks and rich content. I think it was 2007 when Steve Jobs said, here's one more thing, here's an iPhone, and suddenly ebooks started to gather steam. The iPad unlocked that a little bit more, but it took Jeff Bezos with Amazon.com to reinvent book distribution.
Yeah.
And then to add a Kindle into that to reinvent digital book distribution. And until then, the book world was just in freefall. And we've seen Spotify do that with audio. We've seen Apple focus heavily on their distribution network, effectively iPhones, iPads, computers, and then in the last couple of years introduce content to distribute. And you hear Tim Cook talking about Apple becoming a services company, effectively a content company. Right. They forked out almost $100 million for Tom Hanks' movie, which I wish I could remember the title of now because I watched.
Greyhound.
It was amazing. Greyhound. Thank you very much. How good was that? That was a fantastic watch. And
enjoyed it.
So what's Apple doing buying movies? Well, Apple is buying movies to push out through its distribution network. And so the big idea here is the relationship between content and distribution. And that relationship hasn't changed since Gutenberg invented the printing press. If Apple just invented the iPhone, they'd probably eventually die penniless. I'm not going to say they're going to die penniless in the short term. But they've been constantly building the distribution network alongside the content. And so that's the big idea. And when you get that right, nothing to hide here. That's what we're trying to do with Waymaker. We're trying to create great content and get it out to people as quickly as possible to affect change in business. And when you do that and when we do that, then we leverage that magic relationship between content and distribution.
And Waymaker Academy is our distribution method.
Well, Waymaker Academy is our distribution method for the methodology and the learning of how to use Waymaker. So there you go. Yeah. So we thought we would talk today about that amazing principle between content and distribution, because the more you dig into it, the more interesting it gets. And I think there wouldn't be an organisation on earth that couldn't improve their relationship between product and distribution, content and distribution.
All right. Before we wrap it up, then, Stu, what sort of courses can someone sign up for, or can someone take on the Waymaker Academy? Give me an example.
Well, the best example is Waymaker Advised Certification. Easy peasy. Other types of courses. In there is leadership and management foundations. So what does it mean to lead versus manage? We might do a podcast on this. We've got some really useful content in that, and helping emerging leaders and really long-term leaders as well understand the things they do that relate to management and the things that relate to leaders. So if you're an organisation wanting to build leadership, great, get some of you guys through that. That's free, by the way. What else can you see? Within Waymaker, we're always talking about the 7 questions. Question 1, what is vision? Is it driven by purpose? What's holding us back from getting there? Well, okay, it's easy to answer that if you just work through the diagnostic, but what if you want to attack vision? What if you think, we don't really have clarity of vision, we want to unpack that? Well, you can jump in and take our bite-sized brilliant course on that, which will help you understand the vision canvas, work through the vision clarity statements, and ultimately articulate vision and purpose, and not just kind of articulate it, but make it yours and simplify it. We do that for all the questions. So want to delve deeper into market. What is our market? Who's our ideal customer? What do they see as what do they value, and how do we build our perceptions around that? Well, how do you really go deep on that? And so Waymaker Academy has courses around vision, market, strategy, business model, sales, marketing, service, and our early release of courses is all revolving around going deeper in answering those questions. So jump in, take them, tell us what you think. And if you want stuff in there, tell us. We're having some really interesting conversations at the moment around different types of content to support people in Waymaker. And if there's something of value, we'll get it in there for you.
Great. And you talk about bite-sized brilliance. So these courses are not hours and hours and hours, weeks and weeks?
No. If we publish a time, it's always going to be what we call a nominal time, something that we think is the worst case scenario. So if we say it's an hour, you'll probably do it within 15 to 30 minutes. But if you want to do it deeply and explore, maybe you'll take 30 minutes to an hour. So these are things that you might say, I really want to brush up on skills in leadership and management. You might say, gosh, this quarter, I'm really wanting to go deep on customer experience, and as part of your key results in Waymaker, you might actually say, I'm going to complete this course and this course, or I'm going to take my team through X course, and so those sorts of things you can use. You can take them in 15, 30, 1 hour, or you might then take the content out of it and use that for some facilitation and work with your team.
That's awesome. So listeners need to, first of all, sign up for Waymaker at waymaker.io, sign up for a free trial, navigate to your profile, and then follow the link to Waymaker Academy, and that content there is there for free. And if you're listening and you've already signed up to waymaker.io, please subscribe to our podcast because we're going to talk a lot more about some of the courses that are in there, and unpack those a little bit more, get some experts in to chat through those things. And generally, we're here to talk about how to achieve more by doing less. So Stu, thank you so much for your time this week. And looking forward. What are we going to talk about next week?
Well, that's exciting.
All right, give me a little.
Yeah, so I probably briefly touched on it today, but we're gonna go into the diagnostic and talk about the transformation iceberg. Now, that is it's the detail and the ability to shift gears and achieve significant change. So we talk about 4 gears that if you drive with these 4 gears, nice analogy to talk there, that you can create the greatest amount of shift. So I'm going to go deep in that and start to unpack that. And that's about going deep in the diagnostic. So if you want to know how to unlock and use those 4 gears, subscribe.
Join us.
Listen to the next one.
Join us next week. Leadership Talk, how to achieve more by doing less.